Welcome to Kickass Radio, hosted by Jo Sainsbury, founder of Kickass Women. Join Jo over the next hour as she shares stories and conversations that are both inspiring and empowering. Having spent over 30 years in the corporate sector, Jo Sainsbury kicked off her heels and became a coal train driver working in the rail and mining industry. It has been her goal ever since to empower and support women who are considering a career change into an industry role, making the transition as smooth as possible. Jo is a walking, talking success story of how taking the plunge into industry can open up a world of opportunity. And you can do it too. If you're a woman working in industry or considering a career change, this is the radio station for you. Let's get into this episode of Kickass Radio.
Hey there, glow-getters. Welcome to the Kickass Radio Show. Am I excited for today's show? You bet your kick-ass I am. First off, we're talking about book clubs today, so I thought it fitting to wear a supporter tee of just one of the many book clubs around the country here in Australia. And this one was fitting in particular due to the significance of Remembrance Day yesterday, and in honour of the memory of many, but the memory of all of our past and present serving veterans. So the T represents the Brothers and Books Book Club, and it was instigated and founded by Captain Dylan Conway. So these guys, along with many others, found books to help with their mental health on returning from service or during service. So we'll talk a little bit more about them today, but yes, our thoughts with all the veterans' families. The Brothers and Books had a massive, the world's coolest readathon last month, which all the supporters, they raised between, I think, $60,000 to $70,000 for Legacy. And we all know that Legacy is an iconic Australian charity dedicated to supporting our veterans' families. So thanks to everyone that supported the world's coolest readathon there. And I encourage you all to follow these guys and support all of their small businesses that a lot of them have created and operate today around the country. So getting back into it, everyone has a story worth telling. The world needs yours. For the longest time, that was my biggest struggle. Who will listen to me? But everyone has a story to tell. Everyone is a writer. Some are written in books and some are confined to hearts. Everyone has a story, and our stories all have something in common. We all start from nothing. And people want to hear stories. They want to hear our stories. They want to know where we are from, what we are doing, who we love, and where we're going. They also want us to hear their story. But the problem is most won't share their stories until their stories become perfect, without a spot or a blemish. But we all know you can't spend your life striving for perfection. Perfection is elusive and not real. Just try your best and not worry about perfection. Look at most of our social media posts. They're stories or photos that show the better side of our lives. Yet there are thousands of people who like and share posts that speak of human tragedy and imperfections. So we desire to have perfect lives, but we don't know deep inside, we do know deep inside, that nothing is really picture perfect. We are imperfect beings, and we find unity and hope in one another's imperfections. Now, I tell you this not to discourage you, but to inspire you to know your story so you can share it with others. You need to share your story, regardless if you believe it or not, but your story will bring hope to people who are hopeless. Your story will give people a reason to keep going, and that is the foundation of the Pink Book Club, a space for inspiring women to inspire other women through sharing gritty stories. Real women, real stories, real life. Now, the Pink Book Club firmly believes that every single one of us has a story that can inspire someone else, and they offer a safe platform to do just that. So who's behind the Pink Book Club? Nicola Satsworth has worn many hats in her life, happily leaving school at 16. She has 30 years financial services experience up her sleeve, which started in a bank, followed by a crazy paving path of running her own consultancy business. Now, with over 25 years' experience as a facilitator in a variety of online and face-to-face events, including professional corporate meetings, universities and social events, Nicola is also a qualified trainer and assessor. And Nicola has managed her company for over 12 years, developing training strategies and facilitating cultural change initiatives for various industries. So the Pink Book Club started back in 2002 when Nicola was trying to make sense of her world following the death of her mother. So little did she know at the time that this event would connect women globally by sharing their stories. Storytellers are everyday women sharing their stories of battles and triumphs with a focus on contributing to the wider community. Nicola now channels her attention into developing a forum for women to connect through sharing gritty stories, the Pink Book Club, where she cares about who women are as opposed to what they do. So who women are as opposed to what they do, creating both a virtual and online space for inspiring women to inspire other women. And she believes every single one of us has a story that can inspire someone else. So I'm your host, Jo Sainsbury, the Glow Getter. I hope we can keep you in good company over the coming hour. And you are listening to the Kickass radio show, Kickstart, where we talk about all things women working in non-traditional roles in varied male-dominated industries. And I tell you how it is. So today on our show is our special guest, Nicola Satsworth of the Pink Book Club. Let's get into it and have a chat with Nicola. Hello, Nicola. Welcome to Kickass Radio.
Hi, Jo. Thanks for having me. What an introduction.
It was a bit long-winded. I had to add in my my Remembrance Day, so fittingly there for yesterday. But look, thanks for coming along the show. I know you've been a bit crook this week. You've been battling the bit of a flu, so if you're a bit horsey or croaky still, we'll forgive you for that. And by all means, take a drink of water or drink of anything that you've got there beside you when you need to. So let's kick off. Nicola, tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to pursue your career and forge a career like in the finance sector and then in construction.
So, Jodie, well, first of all, I'd like to just say thanks for that introduction as well. And you sometimes forget some of the things that you've done and you go, oh, is that really me? So, yeah, that just prompted a few things in my head. But I'm originally from the UK and now living in Western Australia. And I started my career as a young person, leaving school at 16, in hospitality because I always knew I wanted to travel. And I was dead set against working in finance. I just didn't want to do it. And that's what my mum wanted me to do. She said, it's the cradle to grave job, it's security. But I was like, nah, that's not what I wanted. And I did work for her in her accountancy practice, but she sacked me. So I knew that I thought that finance wasn't for me. But when I was 17, I got a job in a bank. So I came to Australia in 1999 following an extensive career in financial services in the UK. And I was only coming for a year, but I never went back. In Sydney, again, I didn't want to work in financial services, but I got a temporary job, which was with a mortgage company, which was my skill base. And then I was headhunted to move to Western Australia for a role for a property developer. And while my dad worked in construction, so I had an awareness of it, it wasn't really something I thought I wanted to do. And it wasn't that long ago, and it was still quite male-dominated then. But the role I actually took was to set up a back office, so be operational, office-based. And I ended up being out on site and running several multi-million-dollar residential construction projects. So I kind of evolved into all of the roles I've done. I've never set off in a career path and I want to do this when I grow up. I still haven't grown up, mind. I
don't think any of us have.
It's like the roles have been offered to me and I've gone, yeah, I'll give that a go. Why not? Or circumstances have changed, and because of my maybe loyalty to an organisation, I've then taken on responsibility, which has led me into the roles in both in financial services and in construction.
So a very, very broad change there, wasn't it, to go from the finance out into a job site or a work site?
Oh, yes.
And I know from reading a bit about your story, I applaud you, and I know how you stood defiant and resolute across much of your life, both here in Australia and home in the UK. And like so many others, found yourself lost, confused and searching for who was Nicola and what
Yep.
you really wanted in life.
Yep.
So at a crossroads, we all step out of our comfort zone. We risk everything to change our lives. We embark on journeys, some around the world, some just around the country, some within our own local communities. But it becomes a quest for self-discovery. And I think that's what you found yourself, wasn't it? Self-discovery in all of those travels and within those jobs. But
Ongoing.
yeah. And it's funny you say finance like that. Like I never wanted to work in a bank either, but that was one of my first jobs, was working in a bank. Yeah. And then it was about 20 years later, I got another job working in there. And I just absolutely, I can't do this anymore. And I actually hated the smell of money. I absolutely just,
Wow.
and your fingers would be just so dirty from it and just smell. I'd be going forever washing my hands and that. But yeah, it's funny. There's not much cash around anywhere. We're all cashless.
No, digital
just
now, yeah.
So, but so it's a very broad and vast career that you've had. Any particular challenges you had in those careers?
Oh, lots. Ongoing. And they've probably been a lot of my biggest life lessons as well. Is I think when you're younger, and certainly I know from my own experience, when faced with the challenge, I probably would try and avoid them when I was younger because I didn't have the skills. But then I got promoted to a managerial position at a quite young age. I was in my early 20s and had a lot of self-doubt and didn't think I could do it. And my dad, when I went home, I said I'd been offered this manager role, and he said he didn't think you could do it, then he wouldn't have offered you the position. So a very steep curve into learning and shifting from a peer role to a leader role of my team, which was really tough. But that was probably one of my biggest confidence boosters, to actually really believe in myself as a leader and having skills. Yeah, and having skills, which I doubted myself about. But like I say, it was a really big learning lesson for me as well. A challenge well welcomed, I suppose, in hindsight.
And it is, and we all suffer from those limiting self-beliefs. But as we said, we've got to overcome them. We've got to step over them and step up and take ourselves out of those comfort zones and pursue all of those opportunities.
Yeah, definitely.
So what made you actually take a leap out of an industry role, say in the construction, and steer towards consultancy? Was there a particular issue that you faced which instigated or triggered your startup? And, is that what you were wanting to do? Did you identify a gap in the field which you knew you could provide a solution and resource to assist the businesses in, or?
None of that, really. It was... I always knew I wanted to work for myself. So there's lots of things as a young person that I knew I wanted to do, but I just never knew the how. So probably even when I didn't enjoy school, I found academia really hard. Learn that way, not very useful to me. So my learning lessons, even as a young person, through life experiences, been learning from other people and learning through life experiences. So I always knew I wanted to work for myself. I didn't want the rigidity of someone telling me what I can do, what I'm worth. And so that came about once I'd moved to Western Australia. I was working in an organisation which again provided me with lots of opportunity. But I don't know, I didn't feel I was qualified to run my own business because of my low level of education, leaving school at 16. I didn't do any research. I just literally flew by the seat of my pants. I went into work one day, I decided to quit. The beauty of that was that they asked me to consult back to manage the construction projects to completion that I was looking after, while I then set up my own training consultancy company. So I suppose I had that comfort factor to fall back on. Yeah, but I was really naive in the fact that I thought that the business would come rolling through the door because I've set up .consultant and everyone's going to go, yeah, Nicola's going to be great. I had no idea. I really didn't. But I was determined to succeed and find my way. So I didn't know how. So the win-win was obviously having still a bit of income, and as I was growing my own business, I used a lot of my contacts from when I was in training and financial services to help get me a few clients, and it sort of went from there. So I flitted between financial services and construction over the last 20 years, really, and now I consult in both. So I'd probably say, the last 5 or 6 years, I've probably mastered my craft a lot better as a business owner. And I've also worked on what I love to do instead of chasing what I think I wanted to do or what I thought other people wanted me to do, is really think about what are my core skills, what really floats my boat. I love educating other people. I'm in adult education as a trainer in financial services, and I love seeing people thrive. So if I can give them or impart a bit of knowledge or help them facilitate their own skills, and then they go on and prosper, that really fills my heart cup, and that's why I do what I do in the training sphere. And then on the construction side and project management is I do the back end of my partner's renovation business. So I get to use my core skills in both arenas that I'm passionate about. So I feel so blessed. I'm grateful every single day for the opportunities that I have. So like I said, do the back end of his business. I still sometimes go out on site as well. His trades and everything know that I know what I'm talking about. So that also adds value. And then I put my other hat on, and I then become trainer, and I'm out in the classroom sometimes, one of my clients here, and use this other set of skills. And I doubted that for a while, in the fact that I thought you can't really focus all your energies if you're spreading yourself too thin, but I'm not spreading myself too thin. I have skills in both. So I utilize those skills accordingly. So there is times it sort of gets a little bit on top, because there's sometimes conflicting priorities, but I'm normally pretty good at managing those, or get to a point I go, oh, that's it, no more, and have to sort of rein things in a bit. So really it's not an accidental business in the fact that I knew I wanted to work for myself, and then the opportunities again arose and I took them, and some that I've had a look at and go, no, that's not for me. But I when I left my last actual job, I said I knew then that my skill base was one that was required in consultancy, or better suited to consultancy than an actual employed job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that sounds like it's a good balance. Like, it's got good variety for you. So if you're happy doing certain core skills in one field, and you've got the opportunity to fulfill other skills that you have in another field, well, that sounds like a great partnership to have.
I'm never bored.
Love your work and love your job.
Yeah, and I'm dealing with people on the training thing as well. I love dealing with people. So that for me, I've got lots of students I look after, all remotely pretty much. So that bit feels my people skills. And then I also love problem solving. So on the construction side and doing the back end of, like say, my partner's business and my own business, that really helps with the problem solving skills that I have as well.
Oh, that's excellent. And like, how have you managed to pivot in regards to the pandemic over the last, say, 18 months? How has your business had to pivot to continue and to
That's a really good
still
question.
Be around and function?
Yeah, and I think at the beginning of the pandemic, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, no one knew what they were going into, and there was a lot of fear, and I think every industry thought, oh my gosh, what does this mean? So from both sides of what I do, so facilitation, training and construction, while there was an element of fear of the unknown, it was like, let's make hay while the sun shines. So, let's take all these opportunities that are currently with us and work them, rather than be driven by fear and then go, oh gosh, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
So we went into real productive mode, and we adapted and just looked at what information was relevant to us. Because I think also in the beginning, there was information overload, and you end up going down a bit of a rabbit hole, and that can be detrimental to your business. And that's still very much how we operate today.
Yeah, it is very much so. There's such an overload of information, and it's a matter of, what do you believe? Who do you believe? Who do you listen to? It's just so much conflicting information out there, and I think there's still a lot of uncertainty, and particularly now with our mandating of vaccination, and there seems to be, it's not a national thing, it's a state by state thing, and it's
confusing as well.
It is
really confusing. And I think with our businesses as well is, again, we don't take things for granted, and we're constantly assessing. And I believe that human beings are so adaptable, and while and sometimes what we're reading, seeing, taking in can sometimes have a negative effect, we also need to bring it back to ourselves and say, right, what can I control today? What's right for me? what's going to keep my head space in the right zone, as well as my physical space as well, because we can just get too bogged down with stuff. And I've seen that a lot, and I've been guilty of it myself in the past as well.
And there's been a lot of those issues where people are just getting bogged down and very negative, and they're uncertain of their future, of what the future holds for the world, for the country.
Yeah.
But yes, it is about controlling what is in your control, not worrying about what's out of your control, and focusing on what you can do and how best you can continue to forge ahead.
And being positive as well.
Yes, definitely.
Positivity breeds positivity. I teach this in training all the time.
It is, and it's contagious. So it's like you smile, the other person smiles. So it is, we need to keep that positivity and that affirmative.
You're going okay.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So now I know you've been instrumental in developing strategies and facilitating cultural change initiatives for many an industry. Can you tell us about some of these strategies, and do you see these strategies still being actioned and followed through now after you've implemented them?
Yeah, this is a really good question, Joe, that I thought about, and it made me smile as well. So I was really lucky to have worked for a mortgage company back in the UK in the 90s, and we were losing over £1 million per week. So it doesn't sound very lucky. And we were all heading towards redundancy. So over 50% of our mortgage book was in arrears. So it's at the time of a recession. So it doesn't sound too lucky, I know, but for me, it really was. So the organisation that I worked for was so innovative for its time. We won the UK Quality Award, Investors in People Award, as all this went on. So from losing £1 million a week, within 18 months, they were back in profit and their doors remained open and we weren't made redundant. So that's innovation on steroids. It really is. Wow. So this is where I first got my taste of facilitation and understanding what culture change means in an organisation. And that has to, for an organisation to achieve that has to include massive cultural change. So the business survived and flourished due to the changes that were made from sacking the entire board, developing a new board and bringing a female in at that time as well, and realising the people as the best chance of a viable future. So what that meant was by sacking the board and reinstating a new board and investing in their people. They had no money to put new systems and getting consultants and things like that. They had to just work with what they had, the resources they had. And I believe that one of the reasons that happened is because a lot of women were promoted into leadership roles, which I'll touch on in a bit. But so fast forward many years later, so that was my UK first taste of cultural change. It was using the TQM strategies, so the total quality management out of the US, and adapting it for the UK market and the industry that we were in. It was brilliant. I loved every single aspect of it. And that was probably my biggest education I've had in my whole career. And fast forward a few years, I was then involved in a cultural change of moving from manual processing in finance. And I was one of the lead trainers in introducing laptops, which it seems like that we're using them all the time now. But I was one of the lead trainers to introduce laptops in a finance application where a lot of these people had never used a laptop, let alone run an interview with one as well. Everything was still paper-based then.
That's right. Again, imagine, can you remember all the forms that you had to fill out to go for a loan? And my goodness, and particularly for your home loan and that, it was just horrendous. It was, a pile of paper this high.
Exactly. And many of these people had brilliant skills, fantastic salespeople, but they had no technology skills. So it was a real cultural change for them. And you don't want to use your skill talent or your pool of talent and these wonderful relationships that are out there. So it was really important that we helped change their mindset into belief that they could, because so many of the people who are longer in the tooth believed that they were going to be out of a job because they just going from paper-based to a laptop and a piece of technology. So that was another real landmark cultural change initiative that I went through. In recent years, I've done other sort of localized stuff. I was instrumental in changing the culture of managing building site crime here in Western Australia. And that was something that I'd never really done before. But again, it was an opportunity that I seized to be involved in as well, again, to upgrade my own skills. And it was something new, a new challenge for me to be involved in. But it's an ongoing thing, I think. And we're not always changing cultures, but we're in a world of constant change.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And knowing how people and the organisation will benefit from such a successful cultural transformation, it inspires them to put effort into the process. So if you involve the workforce, it's so much easier to get them to make the changes necessary for it to succeed. So, building a better work culture is at the core of cultural transformation. And so many businesses do need to do that change now, particularly with our hybrid working, our remote working. The whole workplace has changed so much in the last 12 to 18 months. So yes, in involving the people and utilising their different, the diverse set of skills that they all have. So it's, one could have such a good range of skills in one application. Someone could have been, as you said, savvy with the computer and the laptop, and being able to coach and train someone else that wasn't so savvy and computer literate. So there is, as you said earlier, humans are very adaptable, but change is always so frightening. The fear of change gets everyone straight up. And it's always, I don't know, I don't think I can handle that. I wouldn't be able to do that. But until you actually apply yourself and accept change, and once you do, and once you know how to do the new methodology or the new process, you work out that, shit, that's so much easier than what I was doing, filling out all that paperwork, handwriting everything. And now...
Trying to decipher the handwriting.
Oh, gosh. And isn't it? But that, in talking about handwriting, I come across something the other day, a conversation which I was blown away by, actually, because when we went to school, learning cursive writing was such a big thing. And today's generation in school, they don't learn it. And I know a lot of the handwriting of the younger generation nowadays is absolutely atrocious. It's, But I can remember that was our homework. We had our red and blue lined writing pads. Yep, and we'd have to go home and you'd have so many sentences you'd have to write out, and every letter had to, reach whatever that top line or the middle line had to cross through the middle line. So it's interesting to where handwriting was, and we had to use it all the time to complete any business work or paperwork and that. And now it's an actual typing skill. It's
different skills for different times. And I think we resist change because, like you say, what we learn at school, we think, well, that's the right way. And it is to a certain degree for where we were at, but we've got to move with the digital times. It's not going away.
And I'm technologically challenged at the best of times. So I sit there and I watch the young ones text on their phone. It astounds because I'm making that many mistakes and I'm backspacing and swearing all the time because it's auto-correcting, putting words in that I don't want to use that word. I've never used that word. But, yes, it's interesting, as we said. We do have to adapt to times of change, but some still have that fear of it. Well, we might go to a little break now. We'll hear from one of the show's sponsors, and we'll be back shortly. Stick around.
Hey, Glow-Getters, have you heard about Kickass Women? Founded by Jo Sainsbury, Kickass Women is dedicated to empowering and supporting women who are considering a career change into an industry role. Visit our brand new website at www.kickasswomen.com.au or follow Kickass Women on Facebook and LinkedIn today to keep up to date with all things Kickass Women and the incredible opportunities and content we have for you. See you there, Glow-Getters.
Okay, so welcome back to Kickass Radio Show. Our guest today is Nicola Satsworth of the Pink Book Club, and we're getting around to talking about the Pink Book Club. We're just going to touch on one more subject out of Nicola's career. And I just wanted to ask you, from your experience, Nicola, what are the top 3 things you think organisations within varied industries can do to be more inclusive for women? and to bring about a much needed culture change?
Yeah, that's also a really good question. When I think back to my early days, my bank boss told me the reason why women don't get promoted was because they leave to get married and have children. And this is back in the 80s, not that long ago, really, late 80s. But that was the catalyst for me to say, well, I'm just going to quit. I didn't take any action. I didn't understand about sexual discrimination back then, but I knew that wasn't right for me. So I made some changes. I believe women are great leaders and great assets to all businesses. And I think some of that's maybe due to their empathetic approach, perhaps, and making decisions based on that, as opposed to sometimes ego and other factors. And also being recognised for my leadership skills, I think, and really getting the best from people is a skill that women are generally really good at. I'm not saying that guys aren't as well. This isn't
That's
about
right.
sectioning this out. But I believe that women are not always seeking equality. What we are seeking is being recognised for our skills and talent. And being given the opportunities to use them. So I think that's the difference. Is I'm not always competing with my male counterparts, but what I can do is I can bring this to the table, which is for the betterment of the business. So that's what I think I try and make sure that I emphasise to other females who I know are sometimes competing with themselves because they're trying to compete with their male counterparts. So I acknowledge stuff as well. I'm not as physically strong as some of the males that I've worked alongside, but I know that they've got different skills to me that I have from being female. An example I can use of that is being on a construction site where the builder and the architect were going toe to toe pretty much. And because I was female, they actually respected that, and it simmered down. So, and that's
like a mediator, like your presence was...
Totally. I think if I hadn't been there, they would have punched on. So while I know that can still be seen as, like the traditional women role and what I was being used for, it actually provided a really good outcome for what happened that day. So, we've all got our strengths and weaknesses. Sometimes we can get, I think, too bogged down into the definition of what we should and shouldn't be doing, or the equality side of things, whereas we should look at what does it mean to organisations by using my skills and talents, whether I'm male or female. So I think with regards to organisations, certainly those male-dominated industries, there's still a lot of work to be done. The stats and facts are out there, which I'm not going to go into, but it's really looking at what the skills are you need to develop your business, and looking for those skills and seeing where they sit, which a lot of the time will be in the women as well, as opposed
that's
to
what, in the existing workforce, they don't need to advertise a new job. If they delve into the existing workforce, and if women speak up and say, hey, I can do this, I believe I'm really good at this, there's a lot more voices to be heard and shared there in women's abilities.
And not being mum for a while, and then they're brilliant, and also because they've got that nurturing skill, they can be so good to an organisation. I think that's a really untapped resource for a lot of organisation. And also aged people. Yes, they can be set in their ways, and sometimes that can be detrimental, but a lot of the time as well, they don't want to go into retirement. They're fit and active. They've got so much to bring to the workforce. They've got a lot of skill, knowledge, and wisdom as well that you might not get in your younger people. But going back to my UK experience, when the boss sacked the board and then reinstated the new one, he put a female to head up the customer service area. What that resulted in is, in the whole organisation, 50% of leadership roles across the organisation were held by women. And so no wonder we went back into profit. I'm obviously very passionate about this topic. I'm getting all excited, it's making me cough. So women, like I said, try not to segregate too much, but I think there is a lot of untapped resource. There's the things about pay, equality, all that sort of stuff as well. But I truly believe if you've got the right skill set to undertake a position, it should be the position that recruits not
Yes.
whether you're male or female.
No, female gender. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And there is, like, I've got such a respect for the aging workforce, because they're your company Bibles. They have all the knowledge and the experience within them, and they need to be nurtured. They need to be shadowed by the younger workers or the less experienced workers. So for me, I will always go to the aging workforce for advice or for help in a task that I need assistance in. But yeah, lots of untapped talent there that could still be utilised by many of businesses and companies.
Yeah, great point. And who hasn't taken advice from their grandma?
That's exactly.
When you think about growing up, you always went to nanny or my nan. I had both my nans alive, and the amount of information they shared with me that influenced me as a young person. Why is that any different in the workforce?
No, that's right. Yeah. And like, women find themselves in an impossible dilemma. Like, if they don't behave assertively, they cannot just, demonstrate leadership competence. But if they do behave assertively, then they're considered less promotable. They're too aggressive or something. So it's about not positioning issues around the gender, like you said, and workplace practices. It's about the skills that you have and what you can provide and bring value to the business. And that's where we need to highlight more and bring businesses to identify that more. Exactly.
Yeah. And to try and reduce the fighting that I think that happens. We have this going to bat all the time, which, yes, things need to change. I certainly agree with that. But going into bat all the time, I think, is a lot male dominated as well. That women are very good at being persuasive in other ways as well.
Yes.
Not in derogatory ways, but in other ways. They use
right.
their emotional intelligence, their empathetic ways, their understanding, their listening skills, that nurturing.
Very active listening, and knowing how to respond is definitely All right, so let's get on to the Pink Book Club. Now, I know you've worn many hats throughout your career and life, but I know that you wear this very significant hat now, and one that you are very passionate about. So tell us about your side hustle, the Pink Book Club, and what inspired you to create and start up this amazing group for women.
Well, the Pink Book Club, as you mentioned at the beginning, was born out of a tragedy in my life. And again, like my business, I suppose, is an accidental initiative. So it started when I bought myself a pink notebook just to make sense of my world following the death of my mum after a very short illness. And she was only 53 herself. So my world was like tipped on its head. So I just bought myself this pink notebook just to write a few things down, just to cope, I suppose. It wasn't a journal of sorts. It was just, it had lists in it and all sorts of stuff. I actually called it Nicola's Book of Crap, and it had all sorts of things in there.
I was going to refer to that. I remember reading that, Nicola's Book of Crap.
Yeah, and it just had also, I've still got the original book. And then a friend of mine was going through a bit of a tough time trying to make some decisions about her career. And I bought her a pink notebook, wrote in the front of how I'd use mine. She then bought her sister a pink notebook. I bought my sister a pink notebook. And all of a sudden there was like 20 of us who'd all bought each other pink notebooks. That was it. But then when I set up my business a few years later, I really found that corporate networking was a struggle for me. I'm not very good at selling myself, or often would sell myself short. So through the Pink Book Club, using that as a bit of a brand, I started creating my own networking events. But instead of focusing on them around business, I made them about connecting people. So as you mentioned, the slogan back then, it was, we don't care what you do, we care about who you are. So we had painting classes, we did food workshops, we did progressive dinners, all sorts of things which brought people together, and business relationships were formed from that. But also we had in there unemployed people, stay-at-home mums. So we had this diverse group and richness of all these women. It was fantastic. This was many, many years ago, but it was a lot of work involved in events management, which isn't my skill base. So I think due to moving again, we were saying about cultural change and adapting to our environments and what's going on in the world, we sort of reinvented ourselves several times over the history of the Pink Book Club. And we had a signature event called Wine, Nibbles and Chatter, where this is where the stories started to come about, where we would ask everyday women to share their stories. And then more recently, we've transitioned into digitisation in order to bring those stories to life. So there's lots and lots of women on the circuit sharing stories who are in the professional arena, but we've grabbed some stories that are really different. So we've had the mum of a transgender teen. We had someone whose father did some pretty nasty things, not to her, but to other people. And, you know, we've had some real gritty stories, and also people who say, oh, I could never share my story, no one's going to want to listen to me, I'm not trained to speak, I couldn't do that. We've had tears, we've had laughter, we've had someone take their teeth out while they're trying to talk. You know, we've had it all. But these are say that yes, there's been a couple of trained speakers come through, but most people are everyday women, you know, with kids climbing over them, dogs barking. That's what we want to capture.
And that's what you relate to. That's exactly what you relate to, and they're the stories that we do need to hear and we do need to share.
Yeah, and people say, like, we know no one's living a perfect life, regardless of what they promote through social media. So when we see things are not going smoothly, but we're listening to this powerful story, there's always something in there we can resonate with. So I've interviewed hundreds of women now, and I don't think there's one story where I've not learnt something or connected to part of that story.
You know? Exactly.
Oh, and then how?
Yep.
Sorry, go
Sorry.
on.
I was going to say we all experience adversity in our lives, and it's, you know, as we said, no one has a perfect life. No matter what, like, you know, I had a massive oh shit moment in my life, and someone else has too, but it's completely on a different scale to mine. We all have our own, you know, adversity and in our lives, and yes, it is a great thing to share, because someone else, as you said, is getting just one thing. If they take away one thing from your story that helps them, that's such a good feeling to take away. It is.
Or even the ripple effect, it can help someone else. And they might listen to a story. We had somebody who'd been through anorexia as a young person, and then that story it wasn't directly influenced to one of the listeners, but they'd shared it with someone else. And then they asked me for some information, and, you know, so there's that ripple effect as well. And that relatability, like you mentioned as well, is we'll listen to things, and I think we also show that empathy again. We listen to someone's story and we go, wow, I thought I'd done it tough. Or that reminds me, you know, I went through that and I survived too, you know, and I had my life event happen and it was pretty tough, but well. And I think every single woman as well, I'm like, you want to pat yourself on the back, sister. You know?
That's it.
Yeah, it's amazing what you've done. And thank you so much for sharing. And I love the fact as well that everyone says, oh, it'll only take me about 10 minutes. I've got nothing to say. And after half an hour, I'm going, time out. You know,
it is. And they probably, and that's the best thing. They've never let it out completely before. So once it starts to flow, and they actually, you know, it's such a massive weight off the shoulders. But it's the inspiration. You got to find your own feet and do what you wanted instead of what you think you should have been doing or what other people thought you should have been doing. It's a fantastic resource and network that definitely is providing inspiration and dispelling any self-doubt, and more importantly, motivating normal, as you said, everyday women of all ages and walks of life. So it's great to see, and it's not built on the War of Roses, but more so finding what you said truly floats your boat and ultimately makes you happy. So, you know, if you need to expel your story, go and do it and get it out there. It's such a liberating feeling. It really is.
Totally. And as you mentioned as well, our slogan now is catchphrase is every single one of us has a story that can inspire someone else. So they're getting stories out there, keep sharing them. And, you know, we're not trying to bore people to tears with our tales of woe or anything like that, but it's that inspirational piece. People connect to other people a lot of the times more so than they connect to what they're reading, where there is no substance to it.
All right. So now, in saying that, you're a founder of the Pink Book Club. What's your own writing experience? I know you've been a co-author in a book titled Finding Myself, and I'm privileged to have a copy of that here. So talk us through this project, and are you considering putting pen to paper and like completing a book of your own, writing a book of your own?
Oh, so I know so many people who've written books, as we all do, or passages. And as per my earlier comment about my low level of education, I never really dreamt of writing a book or being part of a book. It's never been on my agenda. And like most people think, is who's going to want to listen to me? So when the opportunity arose from one of our past speakers, I decided to put my fear aside. We spoke about fear earlier as well, and give it a whirl. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. Honestly, to the point I was almost having palpitations the day I was going to speak to her. And I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what was going to be important. And so Sam, the publisher, she helped me unpack my story. So while I'm really honest and open and share lots of stuff about me and my past and things like that, I've got no issue with that. To actually put it into a story was a very different ball game. So when I actually did it and then sort of had a bit of a thread and a start, middle and finish, I actually felt quite proud of it. I've looked back at it and read it a couple of times.
You should be proud of it. It's a great story. It's something, like we said, like I always refer to a quote, a book takes you on a journey that you'd never dream of going on. And like you do in your chapter here, you know, the reader goes through your lost self. You talk about, you know, finding Nicola and who is Nicola, and all through all your transitions of different places that you lived, different jobs that you had, the relationships you had, marriage and whatnot. It's you take the reader on the journey, and it's a very humbling and beautiful story. So be proud of what you've written. Yes,
I am proud. And I actually sent the book recently to my parents' friends from when I was a child. And she sent me back this lovely message. She said, I remember you as that kid. And, you know, and she said, and I'm really proud of what you've achieved. And she said, and I can just remember those things that you went through. And she said, and you were always smiling, you know, and I was like, oh, that's really nice. And it was nice for someone who knew me back then as well. So, it was a great experience. I have sort of rattling around in my head is like, I would like the opportunity to write some more, but it comes back down to time. It's required. But yeah, it was a great experience, and one that, like I say, I am proud of, regardless of how scared I was, and the outcome was really good. So yeah, it's probably something that's on the distant horizon at this stage.
And I know sometimes it is all too much, because I went through the whole process. I wrote my book, and I know I waffled back and forth between being true to myself and giving into expectations. But I'm finally at the place where I'm proud to be that woman, proud to wear as little or as much, you know, armor as I have to, proud to don whatever. And I think it's taken me until my entire, like I'm mid-50s now to get there, so hurrah. But a short story is a fantastic way to get a sense of an author's voice. And in some ways it can be more challenging, definitely, writing a smaller passage, like you said, than creating a compelling full book, because I hate it when I'm bound by a word count. It really frustrates me. Actually, it really pisses me off. I hate word counts. It is, yeah. But no, it's definitely something worth pursuing. But as you said, it's very time consuming. But yeah, I always recommend, you've got your pink notebook, just keep writing in that, because that forms your story. That is your story. You just have to go through all those pages and pick out the bits and pieces that that you want to, you know, collate and put in together as a story. So you've probably got your book already there. In how many pink books?
I've got loads of pink notebooks, and I my first journal, I started writing when I was 12. I actually shared a passage from it one day live on the Pink Book Club. It was hilarious to know what I used to write back then.
What we all did, and the drawings. I've got mine.
I cringe.
Some of the you do. You cringe, and you think. And like I went to a private girls' school, Catholic school. I used to think, I hope Sister Mary Anthony never ever seen that.
Should have had a coronary.
But so how can women become involved or become a member of the Pink Book Club?
Well, that's pretty easy. We've got a website called pinkbookclub.com, and we've also got Facebook and Insta, all the normal socials. And you can literally just go on through there or start following us on our Pink Book Club page to just get a feel for what we're about. So that's probably
and I know and you have your little interviews and recordings, and you hold events, like you said, your wine and chatter. You still hold them now, don't you?
Yeah, we've got one coming up, which is a breakfast one in Western Australia called Coffee, Cake Tasting and Chatter. So this is a child-friendly event, and most of our events are 18 plus and of an evening. So that's coming up on the 21st of this month. So that's a great opportunity for our members to meet people and bring friends. Which is always nice, doing the face-to-face as well as the online. And our stories are available in our members groups, and it's a Zoom opportunity now, so people can take part rather than just streaming the interviews outwards, so people can get to ask our speakers questions and be involved as well, which is great fun.
And I know when you become a member, you get this beautiful.
You do.
And it was when I got mine in the mail. Actually, I've got a post. I've got to do the post with the photo. It was like, oh, I don't want to deface it. I don't want to write in it. I just want to keep it like it is. And I'm hopeless like that when I get things like something that really touches my heart. It's like, oh, I can't write in it. And I'm bad for like books. I absolutely just vandalize them with highlighters. You know, I go through when I like something, I get the highlighter out. So a lot of my books are just atrocious to look at. But when you get something nice, it's like, oh no, I couldn't do that to it. But yeah, so the Pink Book Club has a beautiful journal that you can write your thoughts and story.
Yeah, and that's through one of our reinventions as well. Because we used to give out pink notebooks at the beginning, and then we stopped and did some other stuff through membership. We've reinvented our membership several times, depending on where we're at in the world, because we started way before social media. So, and now 19 years on from when the first pink notebook was born, we've gone back to reissuing the pink notebooks, which I think is a great touch, bit of nostalgia for me as well. And
it's personable. It makes you really feel part of that. The network and the community. So how do you continue to learn in order to stay on top of things within your role, in your business, and within the Pink Book Club, like leading that?
Yeah. So my role is that of a training consultant. So I have to be on my game and constantly learning, making sure my skills are current as well, because I have to have qualifications to do what I do. And also, I think with the interviews that I undertake with the women, I'm constantly learning of some of my interview techniques. How I first interviewed women for Live at 5 to how I interviewed now has changed significantly. So because I suppose was flying by the seat of my pants initially, and then just got more and more confident and competent in what I was doing. Even learning new systems and approaches to run my business and my partner's business. That's I think I'm always open to, is just finding those business efficiencies. So while sometimes I'm a bit technophobic on some things, I know in the long run it's going to make my life easier. So I've recently gone back to using Mild, which I don't particularly like, but I know in the long run it's actually going to help with regards to the length of my time using manual processes. I also think back to my wonderful best friend Dorothy. She was 103 when she died. She came to near enough every Pink Book Club event, and she was incredible. But I think about her, she learned to use Facebook when she was probably 95, and I had to change my settings because she was my stalker. So she was incredible. And just before she died, she was learning to use internet banking, 103, you know, so she was always learning. And she taught me as well, you're never too old to learn and reinvent yourself. So we put these restrictions around ourselves, you know, if we want to go and dye our hair blue and whatever else, you know, just go for it. And she's been a huge impact, I think. I knew her for 15 years or longer. You know, she's been a massive influence in my life, and also about continual learning, continual education. She was a massive reader. So I do a lot of reading, more so myself, and also Audible books and things like that too. So education is constantly open your eyes and your ears. You know, there's always something that we can do better by learning a new skill and listening to someone else, you know, but also sitting true with yourself as well, is take on those skills that you know are going to motivate me. Like I say, I'm blessed that what I do every day for my work, I really thoroughly enjoy.
It's great advice. So yes, thank you. So lastly, do you have any special offers that you'd like to share with the listeners, or would you like to share anything else with us today?
Yeah, so I thought about that, and I was, of course, I love giving, and I think we all do as well. We're in a position to. So anyone who joins up during November through our membership, not only will they get the standard membership stuff, I'll also provide a digital copy of Finding Myself as part of the membership. So that would normally cost $7.95 if they were to buy that. So I would like to offer that, and just we're always There's some great stories in there as well as my own.
There is. It's a beautiful compilation book.
It is. It's really nice. And I love the other stories as well, because
Yes.
even though the topic is the same, there's difference where we're coming from.
Yeah, exactly.
So amazing. Yeah.
And cool. I love a lot of these compilation books now because I don't know whether you ever read Chicken Soup for the Soul.
For the Soul.
I absolutely fell in love with that book many years ago. And I find a lot of these are so very similar, and the stories that you get out of them really, really, touch your heart. And they're great reading.
Brilliant.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, we'll put that little link, and I'll put your links up on our show notes, and we'll mention your offer, and we'll direct everyone to it. So thanks, Nicola. It's been a great conversation, and one that certainly inspired me, and I'm sure inspired our others. As we said, you can reach out to Nicola at the Pink Book Club, and their website is www.pinkbookclub.com.au, or reach out to Nicola via social media pages. So thanks again, Nicola. Stay safe. Take care. We hope you recover from your flu and your bout of illness there, and we look forward to catching up with you in a little later on early next year, find out what's happening in your neck of the woods. And we'll look forward to being a part of the Pink Book Club and listening and sharing lots of stories there. So thanks again.
Thanks, Joe. Really enjoyed it. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Well, that's it, Glow Getters. That's it for the show. I do hope you enjoyed our show and our guests. A very big special thank you to Nicola Satsworth from the Pink Book Club for sharing so much of this beautiful story with us. And I hope you have all found the conversation inspiring, and it gives you something to ponder over the weekend. Maybe your story needs to come out. So have you ever wondered what it'd be like to be a writer? Yes, you're one of those, even if you've never considered writing a book before. You have a wealth of experience, interests and ideas accumulated through a lifetime that others could benefit from. So think about it for a minute, and think about what you know through your career, your relationships, your hobbies and life challenges that you probably take those things for granted and assume that no one else would find them useful or interesting. But you're wrong. There are people all over the world searching for knowledge that you could share with them. So don't let doubt or fear get the best of you. Take a chance and start putting pen to paper. Write your own book and share your story. So why join the Pink Book Club? To be part of a network of women exploring ideas from timely non-fiction, best-selling fiction, the classics, an undiscovered gem on a bookstore or library shelf, or to be part of their life story or other thoughtful women in your community. Now, we all need to continue to do what these women do. Nicola and the Pink Book Club, they share ideas, they learn from each other, they find inspiration, and they work to better their community. And they read bloody good books. The fellowship and friendship created in the Pink Book Club among well-read is women sharing unique and individual stories. And book clubs provide opportunities for individual intellectual development, but they also emerge from a tradition that stresses the power of the group to implement social and personal change. As always, I really appreciate you guys giving me your time to listen to this radio show. You can find more information on this episode and Nicola and the Pink Book Club in the show notes or on my social media pages. And I would ask for you to tune in again next week, where we have another amazing kick-ass woman making waves, and that's Yogita Ridgely. So reach out to me and follow me on Kick-Ass Women or Joe Sainsbury's social media pages. And if you haven't already, I would really love to hear from you guys. So show some love for Kick-Ass Radio and leave a review on BBS Radio Network. Okay, that's it. That's all for today's show. Thanks for your company and for listening to Kick-Ass Radio. It's not goodbye, but see you later. Stay safe and well. Keep in touch, PosComs. Go on, get your glow on. Become a glow getter.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Kickass Radio, where we kick goals and deliver empowering conversations for women. Want to hear more from Kickass Women and Jo Sainsbury? Visit the Kickass Women website or follow Kickass Women on Facebook, LinkedIn and Instagram. See you on the next episode of Kickass Radio.